I also wanted to share this with you about the guide so we have an understanding of how omnipresent it is, how authoritative it is. And this is why we're going to be using the fifth edition or the AMA Guides to Impairment. It's because of how widespread it is. It's essentially the Bible for impairment ratings. So you can see here it says the scope, depth of standardized approach to science and medical consensus. The guides is used worldwide to estimate adult permanent impairment. It says here, survey in 99 indicates in the United States, 40 of the 51 jurisdictions use the guides in workers' compensation cases because of statute or regulations or by administrative legal practice. So it says the guides is formally accepted through an adoptive language in each jurisdiction's statutes and court-made law or administrative agency regulation by administrative agencies such as State Workers' Compensation Board. It is this statutory, judicial, regulatory, adaptive language that determines which edition of the guides is mandated in a particular jurisdiction. Some states, such as Oregon and Florida, have developed their own impairment criteria, modeling on the concepts of and material of the guides. The guides is also extensively used in the federal system for Federal Employees Compensation Act. The most recent edition of the guides is recommended as the latest blend of science and medical consensus. So beyond the United States, the guides is used in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, European countries for different applications, including workers' compensation, personal injury, disability claim management. So it says there's a growing international trend to adopt a standardized, medically accepted approach to impairment assessment, such as the guides. As previously stated, the guides is not to be used for direct financial rewards, nor is the sole measure of disability. Now, the key word there is direct financial awards. So it's a major component of these injury awards. And the sole measure of disability. It's not going to be the sole measure of disability because remember, disability is vocational based, work based. The impairment is based on functional capacity with activities of daily living. Okay, so what are we trying to get out of this? We're trying to just show that it is a major authoritative figure, number one. It's used by overwhelmingly, it's used for impairment ratings around the world. There can be some modifications based on jurisdictions. So you do want to know from your state. So what you want to do is call your local, who would know what rules are there is if you call your local bar, your trial lawyers association. So those are the attorneys who deal with essentially personal injury and trial. And then ask them for your state. They're going to have probably the highest information base on which guides are, what rules, are there any rules relative to which guides to use and who can use them. But like I said, I'm not familiar with any states that do not allow chiropractors to give impairment ratings. Remember, they'd have to do it on their own. They'd have to do it on their own because according to the AMA guides, if you're a licensed physician, that's enough. That's it. You're qualified. So you don't have to go and have extra certification in giving impairments. I remember there's one of my clients, his attorney said, well, his attorney thought you needed to be certified in impairment ratings. I go, no, you need to get back with him and you need to show him in the guides that the qualification for giving impairment ratings is that you're a physician. That's the only qualification, unless your state says otherwise. And his state did not say otherwise. He had an attorney who was misinformed. So just be aware that a lot of times these attorneys are misinformed, especially knowing the difference between a disability or an impairment. There's a lot of confusion with that. So, and then there's a lot of confusion with disability versus impairment and who can give impairment ratings. So you want to be real clear about this. So according to the AMA guides, that's physician function. And then you just have to check with your state law and go, well, based on our state, are there any restrictions specifically, or additional certifications, et cetera, that are required to give impairment ratings relative to chiropractors? So just be aware of that. But generally, there's not. For the most part, if you're a chiropractor, you can give impairment ratings in your state, but always verify it. So contact your local. That's why I say contact your local. Where can you verify it? The Trial Lawyers Association, they would have a pretty good idea. And obviously contact your Chiropractic Association. But I got to tell you, a lot of times the Chiropractic Association, they don't know. And in personal injury, what happens, there's no personal injury board per se. What happens in personal injury is they kind of use a lot of the rules and regulations relative to workers' compensation. That's what really happens. There's no such thing as, a personal injury board or anything like that. So they'll kind of use some of the rules, and even some of the compensation factors are a lot of times based on the workers' compensation rules of your state. Okay, so just be aware of that. So if you're a chiropractor, yes, you should be able to give impairment ratings.